Shimizu, joining us and giving us an update on all the numerous and multiple things going on over at Rev Tax. Good morning, Daphne.
Half a day, Bree, half a day, Andy, half a day, all the Link listeners on Guam and all across the country and probably around the world. So shout out to everybody. So I know that, there are a lot of things that people have questions about with regards to DRT. I think in particular, of course, is the bill that was signed by President Trump just the other day. Yes. And that was something that we've been watching. And actually, of course, I think even since the summer, there was speculation about a second round of EIP. And so, of course, Congress has been working, I think, since then, I think, and most especially now, as we're getting close to the end of the year to try to get some type of help out to, our people across the nation who are really suffering. So, I think the number one question we're getting is, of course, when are the second round of EIP payments going to be released? And that's something, I want to make sure that I share up front, of course, what's involved in the process on for the insular areas. Of course, there are 5 insular areas, Guam is included in those insular areas. What's involved with us or for us is, of course, we do have to work with the IRS and the Treasury. Of course, we went through this process early on. We had time that the CARES Act first passed back on March 27th, which was March 28th, Guam time, 2020. Of course, we worked on our EIP implementation plan. The EIP implementation plan did not get approved by the IRS and the Treasury until May 4, almost midnight Guam time. So, we don't expect that there will be that much time that is involved, but we definitely will have to be working with our federal counterparts just to make sure, of course, that we understand what we call, of course, the insular area rollout or the territory rollout is going to happen. And we make sure that we understand as well, of course, there are differences between the IRS and, of course, the insular areas. And I think that it's very clear from the language of the bill. Of course, we've been trying to read through the bill as well and understand it so that we have good questions and good conversations with our counterparts when we do meet with them. But, one of the items that really does kind of stand out, if you look at page 1,970 of that 5,600 and some page document, there is a section regarding the payment deadline. And so, the payment deadline for the domestic rollout, and when we say domestic in tax administration, we're talking about the domestic rollout in the continental United States. So there's a deadline for that, and it appears that the deadline for the domestic rollout is January 15th, 2021. But on page 1970, you'll find that that what it is the federal government recognizes the fundamental differences between the territories and the, of course, what goes on with the IRS in the continental United States. And the deadline that was indicated in the bill, and of course, this is something that we're going to have to discuss with the IRS and the Treasury. There were, the language states, and I'm sorry I don't have it right in front of me, but it states something to the effect of the deadline for payment for the mirror code territories, and we are a mirror code territory because we mirror the Internal Revenue Code. The deadline for the mirror code territories is the earlier of a date that the Secretary, and we believe that's the Secretary of the Treasury, indicates, or September 30, 2021. So there is that deadline that is indicated, and again, it does, really, I guess, show that the federal government does recognize, again, the fundamental differences between the territories and, of course, what goes on in the continental United States. Now, that's not to say, of course, that we're going to wait, because we never wait. We're constantly working, and I will tell you, our team has been discussing this even since the summertime. And so we're determined to make sure that we get payments out to our people as soon as possible. I have been in contact with the Internal Revenue Service myself, making sure that, we are going to meet as soon as possible. Of course, again, I think that, of course, as we have been watching what's been happening on the nationwide news, I think that, of course, the series of events that have been were probably a bit unexpected. I think, of course, Secretary Mnuchin did come out last week and state that, he believed that the payments were going to begin to be coming out as soon as this week, when I guess on the domestic side, but because of of course, after the review of the president, and I guess some concerns that he has about the amounts which of course, as you know, and I think all of our people know, it's different from the first round of VIP in that the first round of VIP was $1,200, $2,400, and then $500, and that's for a single filer, a joint filer, and then their dependents respectively. And now what we see is it's $600, $600, and $600 for those same groups respectively. So, we see that fundamental difference. But again, our team has been working in the background. We, since last week, when there was talk about Congress passing this, and it seemed very, pretty imminent, and it was going to happen, that our team had begun to talk with our IT people. We've already begun to, identify, put together our checklist to make sure that we are ready to roll this out as soon as possible. Again, we don't have information yet on when that will happen. That's really dependent upon our discussions with the IRS and the Treasury, how quickly we can get through those and how quickly we can get, of course, the funds to be transferred to, our coffers here on Guam. But again, we are determined, and we're not waiting. I've been trying to also communicate with my counterparts. I've been up since probably like 2, 3 in the morning this morning, just, checking my emails, making sure that I'm not missing anything. And, again, just so that we can make sure we get those monies to our people. And that's number one. So as soon as we do get any information, we'll do our best to go ahead and provide that information to our people. But I can say that we have learned from the first round. Again, we're hopeful that this is going to not take as long as it did in the first round in order to get through the discussions. But we're, going to work through this. And, again, our charge is to make sure that we do this and we do it properly, and that we make sure we take care of our people. And as you know, Bree, that's always been number one for us is, we're here to serve. And, I want to make sure that our people, our community know, we recognize the challenges that we've been facing. We're part of that as well. We have family, we're part of the community. I say that I'm a true Guam girl, very Southern, and, and I love our people and I love our community. And I promise that we're going to do our best to get those monies out to our people as soon as possible. So that's number one. Also, as you know, we still have been running the first round of EIP. And so we're slated to pay out that first round of EIP by the end of this year, which is December 31. And we are required by law to pay out EIP, the advanced EIP, for all of those individuals who have filed. And so the deadline for filing was November 21 for the non-filer forms, and it was October 15 for those people who filed actual tax returns. Our team is gearing up to go ahead and make those payments out. I believe that the checks will be processed tomorrow so that we can get those out and get them out to the Treasurer of Guam before the end of the week. So hopefully people will be able to get those last round of payments for the first round of EIP, and so we can start focusing on the second round. We're also, again, I think one of the other topics that's really important and huge that people talk about is refunds, and where we are with refunds. This year it was a little bit different, and I'm sure Bree and Andy, you're very familiar with a permanent injunction that occurred back in 2013, and Judge Consuelo Marshall at that time, did issue, of course, a judgment, which stated that basically, in kind of lay terms, that refunds should be paid within 6 months of the due date or the date filed, whichever is later. And so, usually in a regular year, the due date is April 15. We do know that, of course, back in late March, the federal government made a change because of the issues that we were having with the public health emergency, across the nation and around the world. And so, that date was moved to July 15. Now, so that means that, of course, we did, as you know, we have been making payments of refunds regularly, and we did make payments through April 15 as of the end of October, which is about when we do normally make payments, and continuing to do our best to make payments on those. I believe that as of this week, we've made payments through June 24 filing date, and of course we're going to continue to make payments to our people. We're determined to continue to make payments with on a weekly basis as we have been, and I think we've been pretty consistent. Our team has been working very well, of course, with DOA, with Director Byrne, and And we're grateful to them and the treasurer, for their continued support as we move forward with that. So that's one. And we also have the Atsuri Imengafa Help for Families program, which we are running as well. The law allows for us to make payments all the way until March 31, 2021. We have been, working to try to get as many payments out as before the end of the year as we can. Our team is also slated to make sure that we work to make payments out before the end of the year as well. So, we're in addition to the refunds and the EIP, the payments for Atsuri and Gafa are also, slated to be processed again this week, and we'll get those out and we'll get the information out to our people.
Wow, that was a lot. I'm sorry. Did you talk about the deadline to file taxes?
So the deadline to file taxes is, of course, usually it's April 15, and that I think there was 1 year where it did change because of Constitution Day. Outside of this year where it moved to July 15th. Okay. Again, it was extended because of the pandemic. There was, I think, a year when it was moved, I think, to like April 17 or 18, something like that, because of Constitution Day in Washington, D.C. But it is April 15, and, that continues to stand. Where we are right now, though, as you know, usually Bree and Andy, we do, and Jason, we actually do usually open up our filing period in end of January. We follow the IRS, and we're in the midst of all of this, and of course preparing to do second round. We're also working to prepare so that people can begin to file their tax returns. It is a little bit complicated, though, because of course, the second round of EIP, I think, makes it a little bit complicated for the IRS. Already they have begun to work on the 1040s and any updates that are needed, because there has to be a special line on the form because of the EIP, right, which has to be reported on your return. So, I think even if you read some of the articles on the national news, the IRS also needs to address the second round of EIP in the 1040s. So, I think we're hopeful, and we're going to prepare, that we're going to start timely, which is usually around January 27 or 28 when we begin to receive returns. It's not clear at this time whether or not there may be delays because of the IRS having to make some adjustments to their forms.
Mm-hmm. What's the status of operations over at DRT with some of the easing of the restrictions by the governor?
Well, so, there has not been, although there's been an easing of restrictions by the governor in the private sector for businesses, we haven't noticed any easing of restrictions in terms of the government operations. Mm-hmm. We're still operating by appointment only, and that's how we're operating until there is an adjustment. But Bree, we are working on a plan already. Our team has been for the last several weeks as our CAR score has remained below 5. We are anticipating that, or we're preparing for there to be a relaxing of restrictions in terms of government operations, and so that we can have a seamless kind of a transition from an appointment only to another type of system once that happens. But what we have done, of course, we've been working, like we call it a bubble schedule, which is an alternating kind of work group schedule. What we're doing now is we're actually kind of moving out of an alternating work group schedule and having more of our team members at the office. And, I think it only kind of makes sense at this point now, since, of course, there is some relaxing of restrictions, that we're, able to have more people in our building. And so we're gearing up to have more people in our building. We're kind of trying to come back to 100% in terms of, operating at 100% of our capacity. And again, in anticipation of, additional kind of restrictions or relaxing of restrictions in government operations. And, of course, as you know, we have many mandates, and, in addition to kind of our usual tasks, we're also kind of gearing up as well to make sure that we can process payments. I will share, our team, usually on a regular basis, we, even outside of a pandemic, we do work a lot of overtime in order to make sure that we can pay our people refunds and things on time. What we have done is, and I'm very proud of them, is we've really worked to, because we knew we needed to get out the EIP, the first round, by December 31. We really had, a good amount of our branches, the tax branches, and even some non-tax branches, helping our EDP, Central Files and Income Tax Processing Group, to try to get all the payments out, Bree, by December 31 for the economic impact payment program, was a bit daunting as we thought about it over the last several months. It was also, I think we're concerned about the possibility of not meeting the deadline. I'm very proud of our team for pulling together and really kind of digging deep and just, making sure that we allocated our resources where we needed to, and that was, again, to our income tax processing team so that we can make sure we get payments out. Our mandates are important, our people are important, and make these payments out and to meet the mandate of December 31 was something that was very critical for us. So that's what we've been working on.
One of the things that is continuously popping up on our live stream comments is concerns and complaints about the phones, that they're busy, they get voicemail, it gets disconnected, no one's answering. And I know in previous conversations we've had was that there was this plan to create some sort of like a call center over at DRT. And people are asking, right, what's the number, that a working number?
Right. And so what we did issue our volume 9. We do have what we call the COVID-19 services series, and we started issuing, I think we issued our first volume back in mid-March, right after right after the public health emergency was called. Now, what we have done in this most recent volume, and I will share it with you, Bree, if I haven't already, and with Jason and Andy, what we have done is we've worked to identify just general call numbers that you can call so that people can contact our branches, and also general email addresses so it's easier for us to be contacted, and so that we have multiple people that are monitoring emails. I also do answer phone calls because people call my line directly, and I want to make sure that I panel them to the appropriate individual. And I know our team has been working to try to get to make sure that we get calls answered as soon as possible, and we're continuing to try to improve on that. I believe that over the last month we've probably seen a significant improvement in terms of our answering phones and things, only because we've really been focusing on it, and we're going to continue to focus. Now, what we were trying to do, and just to share kind of some background on trying to do a remote call center, because we were doing alternating work group schedules, what we were trying to do, Bree, was to have it where when we have one work group that's not on schedule, we have them operating out of a different location. And we had been working with the Office of Technology on that. And that's something that the last time I spoke with you, I think maybe about a month ago, they were kind of getting ready to run cables, and our team had already put together a plan for that. But now we're kind of getting to a point where we're actually kind of open up 100% at our actual location in Barragata. So our focus has had to move from trying to have some people off site to having all of our people kind of on site and making sure that we're there. And not to say that we will not kind of relook at that idea, but our plan, our plan at this point is just to make sure that we're 100% in our agency, that we're working to kind of address the main issues that we're dealing with, again, which is the trying to get the last round of VIP out, trying to get the Mangutha out. We've been also working on procurement, making sure that we utilize the monies that, of course, Governor and Lieutenant Governor made sure that they allocated to us of the coronavirus relief monies for enhancement of our systems, which, of course, as you know, the original deadline for the use of the monies was December 30, which is tomorrow, and which I believe that this particular measure, which was signed by President Trump, there is an extension of the coronavirus relief fund money procurement. So, we've been working on those. And so, again, I think now our focus has kind of shifted. The infrastructure and the support for trying to get a remote call center is still there. But now what's happening is, as I mentioned to you last time, we did have 160 computers that we were able to purchase. The Office of Technology has begun to get those set up so that our team can begin to work on them. And I actually was getting a message from one of my team members just last night who said, the computer is so fast and it's just beautiful. And so we're very happy and excited for the team. So our focus has been on that. Our focus has been on trying to get the resources at our agency at this time. And just because, again, we're moving to an environment where perhaps we're going to probably be more 100% at our agency and not have an alternating work schedule. Of course, with the vaccine and there is a hope that, we'll be able to get past this whole public health emergency very soon and, not have to wear our masks and not have to worry about wearing, face shields and things like that. But, I'm very proud of all of our people, that our CAR score has gotten so low. And I think, my family stateside, they're indicating that in California and other areas where they're actually seeing, more restrictions being placed on them, where here we are on Guam. I think, I'm very happy to say that, our CAR score has been low and we're actually seeing more relaxing of restrictions. So I think it's an indication of, I hope it's an indication of where we're headed and that, we're at kind of a turning point in all of this. And again, that we can get past this. So, our focus has changed. Sometimes we have plans and they end up getting diverted and we don't get to them as soon as we'd like. My one team member was mentioning, she said to me, and she goes, and I'm not the one who said this, Daphne, but you go 160 miles a minute and we're trying to keep up with you. And she had to say, I'm not the one who said it, but you know what? I like to get things done. I sometimes, if you notice, I talk a little bit fast. I'm trying my best to, as we have these interviews, to get better at talking a little bit slower. Not everybody's Sabrina Salas Matanani, and I do have to say when I watch you, I really admire the fact that I admire just kind of your composure. But, I'm doing my best here. So
hey, Daphne's awesome.
Yeah, Daphne, you are awesome.
Bree doesn't know this, but I've been a big fan of hers for many years.
Oh.
So. Anyway.
Daph, I don't know if you can see it on Zoom, but Bree is really, really blushing right now.
Is she blushing?
Yeah.
Underneath my mask. Yeah.
No, but it's true. I think, you guys do a great job. Obviously, my technical area, my area of expertise is not public speaking, unfortunately, but I'm doing my best here. But you know what, my focus has been and of course the focus of our administration has been, is to make sure that we serve our people in, making sure that not only do we do our regular mandates, but of course all these additional mandates which have come through this year, that we make sure that we follow them and that we do our best to, again, serve. I take it very seriously that, the resources that are provided to me are, of course, these are government resources, and we're stewards of them, and we have a responsibility to take care of them. And, I come from the private sector, and I recognize that it's taxpayer dollars, yours and mine, that pay for our salaries, my salary, and I take it very seriously. So, we've had to work to be as agile as possible, Bree and Jason and Andy. Where we again have some plans, it sometimes changes, and we have to pivot as quickly as possible to address as things go on. But again, we are preparing to try to open up 100% and to try to again to make sure that we're prepared as much as possible for any relaxing of restrictions, but we're still also waiting for that to happen, and just like everyone else.
Dev, I wanted to follow up on the round 2 for the COVID relief stimulus checks. Zudem and GAFA, that was introduced by Senator Amanda Shelton, and I believe it was to address some of the deficiencies, right, with the first program. Do you know, in the 7,000-page COVID relief package part 2, if it addresses those deficiencies, or should we look ahead to a Zudem and GAFA part 2 bill?
Well, so those are a couple of good questions. And for the first question that you ask regarding, whether or not the gap that was identified back in, even early on when CARES Act was just passed, to address that there were, of course, dependents, in particular dependents who are college-age students, and who are dependents who are attending college and who are still, of course, very much dependent on their taxpayer parents and guardians, and also disabled dependents of any age. Those were a gap that was identified, and and addressed in Zudem and GAFA on the local front. My understanding, as I've read through the bill, and I do need to clarify this, but my understanding is that the dependent eligibility hasn't been adjusted. Again, that's kind of a cursory review. So the thing about it is Bree and Andy and Jason, as you know, in this particular measure, my understanding is that there was not any additional aid to the states and territories that was provided for in this particular bill that was signed. I mean, in terms of, what is called the Coronavirus Relief Fund. And as you recall, there were multiple streams of monies that were deposited into our government. Of course, there was the Economic Impact Payment Program, right? Then there was the coronavirus relief monies. The coronavirus relief monies, as you recall, and you know what, I am by far not the expert on this because I do defer, of course, to the expert who is the DOA director, Ed Byrne, and also the BBMR director, Lester Carlson, but I can speak in generalities about it. But those monies, of course, were used to fund program in Salepi. Mm-hmm. They were also, I believe, used to fund some of the rent relief programs and other things, of course, on the local front. The different programs, of course, that Governor and Lieutenant Governor had worked on this year. That although the funding was extended in this particular measure that was signed by President Trump yesterday, there is no additional funding that has been provided in terms of the coronavirus relief monies. So, I don't know, and I can't really speak on where we are with the total fund and how all of the monies are going to be utilized or allocated. I can only really speak on the fact that, Rev Tax has been working to utilize the monies to enhance our system so that we can, come into the 21st century and, modernize and make sure that we get our services to our people where we are able to, utilize online platforms. But in terms of, of course, the gap, I believe that was not addressed. And again, I don't know about if there's available funding for such type of a program, okay, if that were, of course, the desire of the legislative body.
Mm-hmm. So you are part of the cabinet. So have you heard anything on when we might see these easing of restrictions for government of Guam agencies that would allow DRT to reopen?
No, you know what? Unfortunately, I have not heard at all. I actually have been, we're at our DRT office all the time and just kind of focusing. And, I have not heard, but as soon as I guess we do hear, we'll let you know. But, of course, we are contemplating that it will happen because, again, we're seeing this pattern. And I think if you look at kind of the pattern as well, Bree, and, I think that how we have seen it was that I think in general, usually we see a relaxing of restrictions, I think, on the private sector side, and then the government side will follow. And so that's what we're expecting as well. But I don't have any idea.
Okay. Since we last spoke, there have been other issues aside from COVID that have popped up, and even just as recent as yesterday with this petition that was filed in the district court by Congressman Michael St. Nicholas and his attorneys regarding this notice of deficiency that was sent to him in October. Can you tell us a little bit more about this notice that was sent?
Okay, well, you know what, I mean, I think I can really just, provide a few comments. One, my number one comment, and, as administrators for tax, and of course in my role as director of the Department of Revenue and Taxation, one of my number one jobs is to make sure that we safeguard taxpayer information. So, I even if I had information, I couldn't speak on any specific taxpayer because it's my job to make sure I protect all taxpayers. So, that's number one. I can speak in general terms where, of course, our team, we actually, I think in general, in terms of collections, when we talk about Rev Tax, collections is one of our number one mandates. And if you look in Title 11, you'll see that collections is collections and enforcement, and of course licensing. Those are the three main things that are indicated in our enabling legislation. Our job is to protect taxpayers, but also our job is also to make sure that we, again, I'm speaking in general terms. I'm not speaking on the case. In fact, I had just heard about that just recently, so I really have no comment on it. But, our job is also to make sure that we safeguard, and we perfect any claim that, the government may have in any tax liability that's outstanding. So, we do have that role as well. But again, I can't speak on anything, on any specific taxpayer, and I don't have any comments on that at this time.
Then, I guess then in general, when is the notice of deficiency issued?
You know what, I can say, and in fact, I'm glad that you bring this up because, we have been working to make sure that we continue to send out our notices. I believe we have like 30, 60, 90-day notices, but something that's going to be happening very soon, Bree, is that, and this is something that the IRS does, and we've been working to try to make sure that we follow, is we will be sending out what's called annual notices of collections. So in the next, I think by end of Feb, we're going to be sending out notices to everybody. And this is the same process that the IRS follows, we follow as well. Again, it's our responsibility to make sure that we advise taxpayers of their outstanding tax liability so that way, and you know, just to share, you know what, our job is also to help people to come into compliance. So we have been advocates for, and I've been, you know, as many times as possible, I try to let people know, if you get a notice of deficiency, if you get a notice that you have a tax liability, you know, we're here to try to work with you. Our team, you know, does work with taxpayers on a case-to-case basis, and most especially, you know, during this time when, you know, we're going through such a kind of a serious situation where we've seen, you know, people really suffering because of the public health emergency. So, you know, it's, you know, our part of what the challenge is, of course, you know, our job is collections, and we want to do our best to collect. But the opposite side of it is, you know, there is also a very, you know, a huge need right now for compassion for our people. So, you know, it's a very difficult kind of task that we have, is to try to balance that out. But, you know, we're doing our best to. So we do send notices out. And of course, you know, again, you know, with regards to the particular matter regarding Congressman Snodgrass, I really don't have any comment on it. But you know what, if you don't mind though, I didn't have the chance to congratulate him on his reelection last month. So, you know, I want to say congratulations to Congressman Snodgrass. And, you know, of course, our administration, and, you know, we want to make sure we work together with Congressman Snodgrass and his team, you know, to serve our people. So I wanted to just kind of throw that in there, as I hadn't had the chance to say that to him.
Yeah. Oh, I also, another issue that is came up within, that was Andy calling, one of the other issues that has come up since we last spoke was what's been happening on session floor, and what the bill that is before the governor, and that's Bill 368. And in a way, some people, and there's also a comment here on our live stream about Rev Tax, because initially Rev Tax opposed the legislation, and then minutes before session they received a copy of an amended version, and then supported it. And I'm just trying to understand how Rev Tax would support legislation that would allow for the outsourcing of a private company to come up with rules and regulations for this cigarette tax stamp bill, and then not only come up with the regulations, then enforce it and pay the private company anywhere between $2 to $4 million, when Rev Tax had testified during the September public hearing that you could pay us or give us $300,000 and we could do the job. So if you could, you know, what is DRT's official position? And is this something that DRT should be doing?
Okay, so with regards to Bill 368-35, and of course with regards to certain matters, I've actually recused myself just because of the, I guess, the potential of there being a perceived or actual conflict of interest. And so I actually, in terms of Bill 368-35, and there have been some bills as well relating to, I think, alcohol and cigarettes that I have not, you know, of course, been involved in. So that's something, you know, that I'd have to defer to my team on in order to respond. But I have not, you know, again, I've had to recuse myself, again, just because of the perceived, there being some type of perceived conflict of interest that people may, you know, exist.
Could you at least give us an update on whether or not the rules and regulations have since been completed with the guidance of the Attorney General?
And so I would have to, again,
Okay.
I think that we can provide you with that information, Bree. I will work to get our team to provide that information to you. You know, that's something, again, that I would have to defer to someone else to assist you with.
Okay. Well, thank you, Daphne. Yes? Oh, we do have a question.
Yeah. Sorry. Hi, Daphne. We got a caller just a second ago. They were asking the question for the 2020 real property taxes. They're asking, when is it coming?
Oh, thank you, because that was something I forgot to mention. Okay, so usually you'll see our real property tax statements be issued, I think, in the beginning of December. What we have done in last week and this week is those have been mailed out just last week and this week. So I believe people should start seeing them in the mail if they haven't already. And if you haven't, then I believe I'd like to say the last batch will be sent out by the end of this week. And so, you know, the deadlines for real property taxes are still the Feb and the April 20, right, dates. So Feb 20, April 20. So the first installment is due February 20. The second installment will be due April 20, but you'll start seeing those come out. If you haven't already, you'll see them in the next week or so. Mm-hmm. But thank you for mentioning that. That was one item I had forgotten to talk about.
I just wanted to ask about vaccinations as DRT prepares to reopen. Is your staff in line?
You know, I actually have made a verbal request to have our team to be, I guess, considered, if you'd like to say, maybe a tier 2 frontliner, because, you know, we have been open, I think that outside of a week, maybe, and actually just a couple of days in March, because in March 18, some of our team was already activated, you know, to work on the enforcement of some of the executive orders. And then again, I think that when we got into this very restricted PCOR 1, I don't know if you recall that, when even the treasurer was closed. So outside of the 1 week when the treasurer was also closed, and I think March 18th, which was a Wednesday. So the 2 days in March, you know, we've had, you know, people that have been activated. Again, I have asked, you know, that our team be considered at least a tier 2 so that we can also be vaccinated and that we can, you know, make sure that, you know, we can open and, you know, keep our team safe. But I have, that's something that, you know, of course, still I think has to be discussed and with regards to the plan.
Right. All right. Anything else, Daph?
I just wanted to say Happy New Year to you, Sabrina, Andy, Jason, and also to all the link listeners all around the world. I actually have seen, you know what, when you just get on and I see people from Washington and Texas and all of that saying morning to you. And so I know that you have listeners that are listening from all around the world. So I wanted to just say Merry Christmas to everybody. You know, I really do believe, Bree, that together we can really accomplish a lot. I hope that, you know what, that through our team and through the leadership, I think that our team has, I mean, and that we've had on our agency and of course in our administration, that people will continue to see that. And, you know, we're just going to continue to serve, but we'll provide you with information on the second round of VIP as soon as possible. And again, just want to say Happy New Year to everybody. Hope everybody's safe, and want to thank you, Bree, Andy, Jason, for all that you do.
And thank you to Daphne, you and everybody over at Rev Tax.
Okay.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Daph.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Stay safe. And we are going to continue in our Zoom room. We have our Here's to Your Health segment. And I know Andy's really excited about this.